Okay.
Hi.
Here we go. Hey guys, this is Creatures of the Night podcast, and I am Wendy.
And I am Chris. Hello.
So, this past weekend, I attempted to get back into a workout routine. I used to do it daily. Like, for a long time, for years, I was religious about getting that done when I came home from work or whatever. I'm never a morning person. I can't do it in the morning at all. I think you used to work out in the morning. I commend you for that. It's a great time for it. It's not happening for me. I get out of bed probably 15 minutes before I need to leave the house. Which says a lot about my hygiene, I'm sure. Anyways, at some point, I just fell off the wagon, and I have not been able to get back on it properly. It is mostly this podcast's fault, so thank you, podcast listeners. You're making me fat, just so you know.
It's your fault, not mine.
If you would just stop listening, we could end this shit, and I can go back to working out.
Stop it. You're ruining my dreams.
Okay. So, to try to motivate myself, I was surfing Netflix, looking for something that I could like sink into while I'm on my elliptical and I can just zone out and burn some calories at the same time. And there were so many great true crime documentaries out there. I'm like, ooh, look at this. Which one should I choose?
Perusing the goods.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of recommendations lately and stuff too. So I was like on it. I'm going to pick something great and really learn about some things and educate myself, whatever. Nope. In the end, I fucking saw that they had put the 8th season of American Horror Story on Netflix.
Uh-huh.
And I couldn't help myself.
That makes sense. You've been watching all of them. So sure, if you saw that, it's like, hello.
Yeah, but it's so dumb because I hated the last season. The Cult, season 7, it sucked to me.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's so many. Well, I'll let you finish, but I have lots of complaints.
Oh, no. I can't even get into my complaints of that season. And it wasn't the political stuff. I mean, I get it. It was of the times. And I support some of the stuff that they were saying. But ugh, gross. If I wanted to watch that, I'd be on Facebook all the time. That is not what entertains me. I want fucking, creatures and monsters. Those things.
Yeah, horror, like that kind of horror. And my biggest problem is the shift from one amazing season to a shit season. It's just like, what happened? Like, why did the season take such a tank dive? I don't get it. The problem that I had when I first got into this show anyways was the switch up. But I got over myself. I'm like, okay, I get it. Same characters, different story. Fine. And I got into it for, a few seasons, but then I realized that not every one of the seasons are going to be winners. And I just want to leave. I want to abandon. Bye. I can't do it anymore.
But I mean, I'm such a sucker for getting attached to a show, no matter if it starts to suck or not. I'm like, I got to finish this out. So here I am watching this new season.
You are watching it? Okay.
I only watched like 3 episodes, but so far it's already looking more silly than scary. And I don't mean silly in like a ha-ha way. I mean silly like, who wrote this shit?
It was in the bargain bin at the grocery store. Someone just picked that script up and was like, this'll work. Fuck it.
I don't get what's going on so far. And I realize that they do a lot of that build up before they really this is what it's really about, guys. But I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? This is just dumb. However, the soundtrack so far is pretty damn good.
Nice.
I immediately went to my Spotify and was like, oh, I need that fucking song.
Yeah. Nice. That's good. Well, at least there's one plus that came from it then.
Yeah. It really is. I love music, but I am bad at remembering names and like who sang them or anything. So I have to like have heard it and be like, oh my God. And I'll Google the lyrics to find out the name to the song. Oh, it's such a process. There's some kind of app I think that you can just like play it.
Listen.
Yeah, and it'll listen and your phone will find it for you. I need that because that's me all day long.
all day long. Yeah, I know about this app. I'm the same way. I can get the names of artists. I'm usually spot on with the artist, but don't ask me the song. I fail at that I don't know. Listen to where's the chorus? It's got to be whatever she's saying right now, right? I guess. I don't know.
Right. So you're typing in like an entire long sentence and being like, that's the title to the song, right? No. Anyways, also with this new season, which I'm not sure this has ever happened to me watching American Horror Story, but I've had some pretty wacky dreams. Like,
Ooh.
I dreamed that I was a vampire living in a bunker with other vampires and some, elite people chosen to live there as well. But the bunker lifestyle and those like elite people, that relates to the new season and where I'm at in the storyline or whatever. That's happening. So that's just my mind remembering that. But as far as I know, there has never been any vampires in any of the American Horror Story seasons. So I don't know if that was just my subconscious being like, you know what would help this show? If you throw in some fucking vampires.
Vampires.
I don't know.
I love that's where your mind went. So were you doing any feasting in your dream that you are aware of? Or were you just like hanging out?
Yeah, we were just hanging out. And somehow I knew I was a vampire and I knew these other people were a vampire. And then there was these other people here and we were all stuck there. Like the concept so far, I'm not spoiling this for anybody because it's been out forever.
For a while. Yeah,
yes,
right.
I'm always like, 10 years later, I'm like, what's that show? I'll check it out.
I'll give it a try on Netflix one day.
Right. So the idea on the storyline so far is that a nuclear apocalypse has happened. And select people had bought tickets to live in these bunkers. And then some were just chosen because they were special. But you don't know why they're special. Maybe they will turn out to be vampires. Maybe I'm psychic. And that's what it is.
All it took was you watching American Horror Story to realize that you're a psychic.
All along.
That's what's it.
I can predict the storyline in American Horror Story. What a talent.
Either that or you were at the same grocery store and you saw that script laying there and you're like, that's awful.
Well, I do believe that I've watched some YouTube video on information about this season, but I don't remember it. So I don't know if that tiny little bit of memory is bleeding in. So if somebody's listening and like, you dummy, there are vampires in this season later. So that's really all I got for you. I don't have much else going on in my life besides trying to get back on the workout routine train.
Well, I have also been thinking about getting back on the workout routine, but I have not yet accomplished my goal. I have plenty of things here to do it. It's just that I have to allow myself the time to do it. And in the mornings is the best time, but I'm usually making sure that I got everything social media wise set before I leave my humble abode and go to hell where I work.
Yeah, and I'm just avoiding getting up. That's what I'm doing.
But when I come home, I can't even get in the mindset to work out because I feel like I've been abused all day long from my job, that it's just let me sit in the bathtub and watch something paranormal. I can't deal with life right now.
And I have those days and all I want to do is come home and have a good meal and just find something that makes me happy. But at the same time, I like being active. I sit all day for work and that annoys the shit out of me. And so if you have a show that you're so excited to go home and watch.
Yeah, and Curse of Oak Island is definitely my secret love. It's been a show that they have not really found anything. Spoiler alert. And my husband and child make fun of me for still sticking with it. I'm just I love these people. I love everything that they've done. And I support everything that they're doing to find, hopefully one day, this treasure that's out there. But every episode, Brandon's like, what'd they find this time? And I'm like, some sticks. And they're like, really? Some sticks that were in the ground? And I'm like, yep, they were in the ground. Those sticks, they were there. I think they found a button. So I agree with you. If a show isn't really going in the right way, that maybe you should cut your losses, but I can't do it either.
Obviously.
I'm sticking with it.
Yes. One day I will get my vampires. One day they will find that fucking treasure.
I really hope so. So I can see, I told you people. I knew it. I was out for them. It's like, yeah, those are my boys. I had your backs all along.
All right. So all the TV aside, you want to hear a story?
Absolutely. I love stories. Continue.
My podcast story this week was actually suggested to me by a friend so long ago, when we first started this podcast.
Wow.
But not originally being from Arizona, I had no idea how big this story was. And I just stored it away for laters, I'll get to that someday. Until a couple of weeks ago when I heard the same story mentioned on TV. It was actually on Josh Gates's little Tonight Show he's trying to do these days while he's in quarantine. He was interviewing somebody and they happened to mention this, though that's not what the show was about. But the next day, just out of curiosity, I asked a few coworkers if they had ever heard of the story. They are Hispanic ladies, and it's a part of their culture, so I was just curious. Do you know anything about this? They don't talk to me about the paranormal, so I didn't know if they'd be into it. Oh my gosh. They almost fell out of their office chairs, stressing to me how real this story was and how scared they were of this legend.
Nice. It's like you opened up a can of worms. You couldn't leave for hours. You're like, no, really, I have to go back to work.
Well, that's the thing. These chicks, they know I do a podcast. They know what I'm into, but they don't ever ask me about it. They don't ever ask me what my weird story is this week or anything like that. But once I asked them about this, they were urging me to do the story on it.
Oh.
They were calling their family members to gather up, encounters to tell me about to add to my story.
Nice.
They were going that bananas about it. So here we go.
All right. I'm holding on to my butts.
My story is on the legend of La Llorona.
La Llorona.
I know. I was actually just singing that song in the bathroom while we took a bathroom break.
Oh, man. You know what's funny? I wrote the story to do as a tail end to another story. And I already did the other story. I just went on and on and on. And I actually found something else. So I ended up cutting out the La Llorona story. So I didn't do it, but it's part of the Conjuring universe.
Yes, it is.
But that's awesome. I'm so excited. You got the personal stories too?
Well, they were like, my uncle swears he heard her while he was out going to pick up beers at the 7-Eleven. But,
that's creepy. At the 7-Eleven.
None of their stories were all that impactful, but it was interesting that these people were like, oh my God, that shit's for real. I don't know what you talk about all day or what you're into, your little ghost stories and stuff, but La Llorona, she's a real thing. It was like, okay, y'all know I've done a paranormal podcast this whole time, right? Because they weren't the ones that originally suggested it to me, but it's because it's so real to them, I think.
Yes.
They don't see it as I don't know, a ghost story necessarily.
I love this story. This is crazy. And you're right. You're living right in the thick of it.
Come to find out, yes, I am. Was not aware of that.
Well, hey, have you seen the movie?
Okay, so no, I did not watch the horror film. I listened to a podcast that those chicks had seen the horror film.
Yeah.
They hated it.
Yeah.
Said it was terrible.
I like a movie that's based on a legend regardless. I am in love with the Conjuring universe. And the storyline is impactful enough that you have to see the movie. I can see there were some, okay, maybe he could have done this differently, but the actors are great. And I like the storyline enough that I own the movie. So
the chick from Freaks and Geeks, the Judd Apatow's show, Linda Cardellini, she was in that movie. But that's the shit that they were talking about. They were like, the main character was a white chick, not a Hispanic chick, though the other lady was Hispanic, and that's the lady that Josh Gates interviewed.
Oh,
but they just thought it was culturally inappropriate. And,
I see.
Yeah, and that it wasn't written well. And I'll get into a little bit more why she's such a huge figure to them that they could have honored her a little better, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, it was $14.99 on Amazon Prime, and I didn't want to pay for it because I'm a cheap ass. So that's why I'm always watching Netflix.
I'm not going to lie. I got it on a Black Friday. It was like $3 at Walmart. We were going through there. I was like, holy shit, I've been wanting to see this. Yoink, it's mine.
I totally was going to watch it and try to make you so proud that I watched the horror film.
Yes.
And I was like, I have to watch it because it's for the podcast.
Yes.
And I look it up on Amazon, and there were many different other versions of it. But the one that I knew, this is the big one. Yeah, it all of a sudden went to the buy it for I was like, fuck you. Nope. Exit out. I heard it's in the red box.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I heard that, but I'm not going to the red box either. So I'm so cheap and lazy.
You're going to watch one of them? Watch The Nun, please. That's the one.
There's cartoon versions on Amazon Prime of La Llorona. And I was like, that's the one for me.
That's pretty interesting. Was it like...
I didn't watch them. So.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right, then.
I figured you wouldn't be proud of me, so I gave up pretty
I'm
quickly.
very excited that you're doing the story, though, if you couldn't tell, because this is great.
It's a good story. I might bore you with a lot of the history. It's not going to be like that horror film you watched. So let's get into it.
All right.
Now, the La Llorona tale is one that has been passed on generation after generation. So over the years, as the story developed, her story evolved. You will hear many different versions depending on who you are speaking with and where they are from. Some people say she kidnaps children who look like her own children or those who misbehave, which kind of sounds like parents are telling their kids to scare them into like good behavior and stuff. But like I said, the women that I work with, they are in their mid to late 30s and they still believe. So this story is not just a spooky story for the kiddos. It affects the adults too. Plus, there are some who believe that she also attacks cheating husbands. But all the stories have one thing in common. When she cries, you better run. The legend of La Llorona, which is Spanish for the weeping woman, has been a part of Hispanic culture in Southwest Mexico and Central and South America since the days of the conquistador. The tall, thin spirit was said to be blessed with natural beauty and long, flowing black hair in her youth. And she's most often seen wearing a white gown as she roams the rivers and creeks, wailing into the night and searching for children to drag screaming to a watery grave.
Jeez. It's creepy already.
She's great.
She sounds fun.
Yeah.
Bring her to the family reunion. Where'd all the kids go? Oh, they're with La Llorona. What?
What?
No.
No one really knows where the legend of La Llorona began or from where it truly originated.
Oh.
And the tales vary from source to source, as I said, just depending on where you kind of live. The one common thread is that she is the spirit of a doomed mother who drowned her children and now spends eternity searching for them near rivers and lakes. One of the most popular versions of the story is that La Llorona was once a woman named Maria, born to a peasant family in a humble village, and her startling beauty captured the attention of both the rich and the poor men of the area. She was said to have spent her days in her humble peasant surroundings, but in the evening she would don her best white gown and thrill the men who admired her as she made her way through the town. The young men anxiously awaited her arrival each evening, and she reveled in the attention that she received. However, La Llorona already had 2 small sons who made it difficult for her to spend her evenings out. And often she left them alone while she caravanted with gentlemen during the evenings.
Oh, they didn't have video games back then. What were those poor kids doing?
I know, like when mine were my oldest was really young, you could just put him in front of the TV with like Teletubbies. He also really liked watching ER and sports games. I think he just liked quick movement.
Yeah.
So you could be like, okay, I got to clean the house. You are good. No,
Yep.
They didn't have that then. So she just kind of left them by themselves.
Wow, that's sad. But yeah, we called it the babysitter because we had Bear in the Big Blue House. And my son just loved that bear that would sing to him. That's all he was all about it. He's going to murder me in my sleep for mentioning that on this podcast.
Oh, he's not going to listen. So
he's not going to know.
So one day her children were found drowned in the river.
Yeah.
Some say they drowned through La Llorona's neglect, but others say that they may have died by her own hand.
Yeah.
I feel like this version of the story serves as a message to women that enjoy attention or going out. That somehow that makes them a bad mother. I mean, if your children drown in a river because you weren't watching them, that's bad.
Yeah, that does make you a bad mother.
It does, yes. But if you happen to be a mother who also likes attention from males and likes their affection and likes going out, but you find a proper babysitter, that doesn't make you a bad mother. But this was kind of like a message that was sent out maybe to warn those people to not behave that way. Like, once you're a mom, that's it. That's your job. Do that.
Yeah, do that instead.
All you were made for.
Yeah. Okay. I see that. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Also, one of the podcasts that I listened to kind of help research with this story totally took a different route, but it's an amazing podcast. It's called Deviant Women. Yeah, I know. It's a good title. And it's hosted by these two amazing chicks that have wonderful accents, but they're hella fucking smart too. Like one of them had done their doctorate thesis on La Llorona.
Shit, me too.
I never knew that. You could have done this story then. Shit.
God. I probably did it before her. I'm sure she just copied off of me.
Oh, I bet that's what it was. Yeah.
Just kidding, guys. I'm totally lying, obviously. But damn, that's amazing to think that somebody did their thesis off of this story.
Right.
Wow.
She has a doctorate and she's doing a podcast just on infamous women.
I didn't even know doing a thesis on something like this was possible.
So her thesis was not necessarily on the supernatural being of La Llorona. I think it was on kind of a bigger scale, but introduced La Llorona because she's into that kind of stuff, you know? But it was very cute because they seem to be both very smart ladies. They used a lot of big words I would have had to Google to find out what they meant. But one of them had a potty mouth, and then the one that wrote the doctorate, she was a little more conservative. So I thought, this is somewhat like us if we were smarter and British.
If we could watch our mouths, maybe sometimes, and had sweet accents.
Anyways, these lovely ladies, they laid it all out. They connected the La Llorona legend to society just trying to make women feel like dog shit about their urges or their desires so that they can control them better.
Yep.
I'm not at all going to attempt to regurgitate the information that they put out there. It was beautiful. Like I said, you need to just check out their podcast. The idea that I'm trying to tell you, though, is just take note that some versions of La Llorona's story are very misogynistic.
Okay. I didn't even put that together, but I totally see it.
However, there are versions of the story that paint La Llorona as a caring woman who married a wealthy man who lavished her with gifts and attention. However, after she bore him 2 sons or 3 sons, the story varies, remember, he began to change, returning to a life of womanizing and alcohol, often leaving her for months at a time. And he no longer cared for the beautiful Maria, even talking about leaving her to marry a woman of his own wealthy class.
There's a lot of different stories here.
Yes.
I didn't even know this one. And it varies basically on whichever region you're at the time.
Yeah, that's the way it seems. Or, just whatever the political belief or the religious belief was at the time. Social belief, I should say, more so than religious. Yeah.
It would not be spun. It would be catered more towards those beliefs. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gotcha. Huh.
So when this wealthy dude that Maria was with or married to, when he did return home, he only was there to visit the children. And this devastated Maria, and she began to feel resentment towards her boys.
Oh.
One evening, as Maria was strolling the streets with her children on a shady pathway along the river, her husband came by in a carriage with an elegant lady beside him. He stopped, but only to speak to his children, and he completely ignored Maria. And then he drove off in his carriage down the road, never looking back.
I'm surprised she didn't slice those tires.
Yeah, no, she actually went into a fit of terrible rage, and she turned towards her children. She grabbed them and threw them into the river.
Jesus.
But as she kind of watched them disappear downstream, she realized what she had done, and she ran after them along the banks of the river. But it was too late. Maria broke down into unconsolable grief, running down the street, screaming and wailing. The beautiful La Llorona mourned day and night. During this time, she would not eat, and she walked along the river in her white gown, searching for her boys, hoping that they would come back to her. She cried endlessly as she roamed the riverbanks, and her gown became soiled and torn. When she continued to refuse to eat, she grew thinner until she looked like a walking skeleton. She finally died right there, next to the banks of the river. Not long after her death, her restless spirit began to appear walking the banks of the Santa Fe River after darkness fell. Her weeping and wailing became a curse of the night, and the people began to be afraid to go out after dark.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, no, I'm fine. I'll stay in tonight.
Yeah. We got everything we need? Okay, good. Lock the doors. Good. Close the shutters. Not going back out. Bring the cat in now.
She was said to have been seen drifting between the trees along the shoreline or floating on the current with her long white gown spread out upon the water. On many a dark night, people would see her walking along the riverbanks and crying for her children. And so they no longer spoke of her as Maria, but rather La Llorona, the weeping woman. Children were warned to not go out in the dark, for La Llorona might snatch them and throw them to their deaths in the flowing water. But others believe she kills indiscriminately, and all should be cautious, not just the little ones.
Yeah.
Taking men, women, as well as children, just whomever is foolish enough to get close to her. There is one variation of the story that says after her death, she was tricked by a demon posing as St. Peter, who told her that her son's souls were lost, but that she would be granted entry to heaven if she found their souls and brought them back to heaven where they belonged. The demon knew her son's souls were already in heaven and that the woman would be stuck in the land of the living, trying to find her sons forever, crying constantly for the sin that she had committed.
Well, I mean, she did do something pretty horrible, so...
It sounds like a perfect version of hell.
Yeah.
That you're kind of tricked into the idea that you're okay and you're going into heaven, but like he gives you a task that sends you right back into the world you don't want to live in anymore.
It's more like purgatory.
Yeah, right. Which is, it's a better hell to me than just sitting in lava fire or whatever.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's totally more like memory foam. I mean, it retains a lot of heat, but at least you're a little bit more comfortable because it's memory foam. I get you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just being stuck in between, like, nobody likes that. This whole pandemic shit, most people complain about just the not knowing. That's what drives people bananas. And so that's what I imagine purgatory is like.
You know, I do believe in purgatory. I was actually raised Catholic. That was one of the beliefs that I was brought to believe existed. I don't know if it's an ongoing thing with Catholics, but yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
I don't think the Catholic religion changes that much.
Well, I don't want to put it out there because I haven't been to Catholic church in who God knows how long.
Most Catholics haven't, I'm sure.
You know, I just don't want someone to be like, shame on you for not knowing that we've changed this whole purgatory thing.
We got rid of that whole purgatory thing.
We realized that just didn't really fit into what we wanted to, believe in.
Silly. No.
No. I'm pretty sure you're right. I'm pretty sure Catholics want you to remain very depressed about being religious. So
guilt is a huge part. So, after this demon tricked her back into the land of the living, where she just suffers looking for her kids all the time, she kind of got fed up after a while with the grief and the desperation of not being able to find them. So, yeah, she just started grabbing any old children she could find, and that's when she started drowning them in the river.
God.
Maybe this will be her ticket. No, it didn't work out, I guess.
Yeah, lady, you can't go back. You can't start just drowning other people's kids. What are you doing?
I think she thought she could trick St. Peter, but I don't think it's that easy.
Yeah, and I don't think it worked for her either.
Oh, no, obviously. So some believe those who hear the wails of La Llorona are marked for death or misfortune, similar to the Gaelic Banshee legend that we are familiar with.
Oh, that's what I wrote down. I was going to say, it's like the Banshee. That's what I wrote down. Oh my gosh.
So as I'm asking my coworker about this, I'm like, so it's like a banshee. And she looks at me and like, what's a banshee? And I thought that was hilarious. But look, I didn't know who La Llorona was. So it's fair, but just thought it was cute. Then I'm like, yeah, a banshee that's been around, I don't know, it sounds like longer than your La Llorona. But how could these two worlds connect and have similar stories of wailing women, you know?
Yes.
Across the waters from each other?
there are stories of beings in Iceland that mirror beings that are found in Scandinavia, just different parts of the country. They're called different things,
Right.
but they're very similar in nature.
And how would they have ever known?
Right.
Crazy. So we did a whole story on banshees, and I know we went back to the 10s or whatever.
Yeah, right?
It was so long ago.
It's the oldest fucking story ever.
Not quite, but yes, close. It's been
Close.
around for a really long time. I remember we were like, it's the 9th century or whatever. I don't know. But La Llorona, she's like the 16th century. So
Right.
these people were not connected before that as far as we know. So how did they connect these stories?
Yeah,
It's interesting.
it is.
Anyways, among La Llorona's wails, she is noted as crying, "Oh, my children," or "Oh, my sons," or asking, "Where are my sons?" All of this, of course, she says in Spanish. I just wasn't going to attempt to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I took French, remember. But like we said, stories of weeping female phantoms are common in all folklores from around the globe.
Yeah.
The legend of La Llorona being an oral tradition can be very hard to trace. The earliest published reference to La Llorona occurred in a sonnet written by Mexican poet Manuel Carpio in the late 1800s.
Wow, that's a pretty long time ago.
Right, but look, that poem makes no reference to her killing her children. Rather, that La Llorona is identified as a ghost of a woman who was murdered by her husband. So the origins of the legends we know today are very uncertain, but it has been presented as having pre-Hispanic roots. La Llorona is thought to be one of the 10 omens foretelling the conquest of Mexico and has also been linked to Aztec goddess. In the Florentine Codex, which is an encyclopedia work on the Navajo peoples of Mexico, completed during the 16th century, you can find 2 Aztec goddesses who could be linked to La Llorona. The first is Senecodal, which means snake woman, and who is described as a savage beast and an evil omen who appeared in white and who would walk the night weeping and wailing. This goddess is believed to be linked to the 6 of the 10 omens that are recorded in the Codex as having foretold the conquest of the native people. As the woman is said to be heard wailing and crying about the fate of her children, which they assume her children is like the Aztec people.
Okay.
A later codex entry discusses a goddess, Coatlicue, who is often linked to or thought to be the same as the other goddess that we just mentioned, that I'm sure I'm butchering all these names to. But Coatlicue was the mother of the Aztec god of war. She was described as being very ugly and dirty, like something straight out of hell. And she would weep and moan as she wailed for her son to return from war.
Is this how they picked on kids back in the day? Yo, mama's so ugly, It just sounds like kids picking on kids here, and then like those were the hate on or whatever. Because when we were kids, there was always that "your mama's so ugly" phrase. And
Yeah. Look, I didn't know any goddess was supposed to be ugly. So yeah, this sounds like somebody was just being a shithead, basically.
Well, you said it was this goddess and that goddess, so I think their kids got together and be like, my goddess is number one, and I'll tell you why. Because yo, mama's so ugly. They just went for it.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Who knew thousands of years later that we would still be doing it?
Yeah, the yo mama jokes would still exist.
Yep. Today.
Classics, man.
Classics.
Though these goddesses fulfilled some elements of La Llorona's legend, we need to look to another goddess in order to find the links to water and infanticide, which I had to Google. It means like killing your kids. Anyways, according to the Florentine Codex, this goddess by a name, listen, there are so many fucking letters in this name. It is the Chow La Cha Husi. So that's not right at all.
It is the goddess supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yep, that's what it was. She was the goddess of water, and she was the elder sister of the rain god. She was said to drown people and overturn boats, just for fun, like cow tipping kind of thing.
Like supercalifragilistic. She liked a cow tip?
Yeah.
Wow, she's evil.
So they would have ceremonies in her honor, and this would involve sacrificing children.
Oh, Jesus.
And the more the children cried, the more successful the sacrifice was thought to be.
That's fucked up. Yeah, that's rough.
Pretty dark.
Yep.
So, is the legend of La Llorona just a more humanized story of these demonistic goddesses? Or is it something more historic? La Llorona has also been compared to La Miche, a real historic figure that was gifted to the Spanish conquistador Cortés as a translator and concubine. In order to survive, she built a relationship with Cortés, eventually bearing him a son, who Cortés sent off to Spain for an education and then left La Miche for someone of his own status. This is to be believed why La Llorona is often portrayed as an indigenous woman jilted by a Spanish lover.
Wow.
However, there are many similar European and Old World motifs that she could also be linked to. And I could probably go on and on with a list of stories throughout history, just like La Llorona's.
Yeah.
Just being betrayed by the man that she loves because she's of a lower class, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The point being that the tale of a ghostly weeping woman is an old one for sure. So pinpointing exactly who La Llorona was is probably impossible.
Yeah. She could have been any of them.
Right. So this is historians looking at this one Latin story and saying, oh, that connects to the Greeks and that connects to this German and Irish, and they're all the same. They stole it from that. But like we said earlier in this, how would they have stole it from that? They didn't know about it.
Right.
So where did it come from? Was she a real person, or was it a bigger story kind of shared to share their tragedy of their loss of their culture? And it doesn't help that the story varies depending on who's telling it either.
Sure.
Everybody's got their own opinion.
Oh, yeah. And Grandma and Grandpa have their own versions, too, I'm sure.
Yeah. In addition, the legend has changed over time, seemingly to reflect the social or political climate, such as in 1917, a play titled La Llorona by Francisco C. Nave, where Luisa, the La Llorona of the story, has a son with a lover, Romero, the son of Cortés, by the way. So connecting it to historical events.
Yeah.
So he's of much higher status than she is. They spend years together and they have this child, but Romero is still promised to a daughter of a wealthy judge. Luisa is unaware of this, and Romero believes that he can continue his relationship with her if he just marries the other lady in secret.
Oh my God.
She'll never know.
She'll never know. Wow. This sort of shit was going on back then, too.
I know.
What?
Like secret lives or whatever. No. So a rival suitor, because she's beautiful, right? So a rival suitor tells Luisa of Romero's impending wedding, and this drives her mad. Not only by Romero's infidelity, but she hears that he plans to take their son away with him.
Oh, wow.
When he comes for his child, Luisa tells him that he can have his son's life and then kills their son with a dagger.
Jesus.
And then offers Romero the body in a fit of deliria, saying that she killed him after Romero had killed her soul.
Okay.
So, yeah, then Luisa was hanged for her crime because she did kill someone.
Kind of saw that coming.
And during the public execution, she was vilified as a witch. Might as well just throw that in there.
Might as well. Yep, yeah, she's a witch too.
Romero is presented as a very remorseful person, and he dies of sorrow and grief when La Llorona appears to haunt him. The play mocks the class system, and it really reflected on the life of colonial Mexico. At the time when there was a shortage of Spanish women in the New Spain, as they called it, this meant that unions between indigenous women and Spanish men were quite common. But by the end of the 16th century, as they colonized that shit and made it suitable for their Spanish women to come over, the population of European Spanish women grew. And the status of indigenous or mixed race women fell considerably. More alarming, the children resulting from those unions were sometimes taken away from the indigenous mothers. Generations of children were therefore raised as Spanish, despite their mixed heritage, and taught to believe that their mother's indigenous culture was inferior.
Oh, come on. Jesus.
The situation for indigenous women only grew worse. The later colonial period saw an increase in emphasis of racial purity as the Spanish crown passed legislation limiting the power of racially mixed populations, which included laws regarding segregation and legislation limiting the inheritance of mixed children from Spanish fathers. Later versions of the Wailing Woman story in plays presented the villain as Spain and having created heroes in the mixed race and indigenous cultures.
Damn, I mean, can you imagine going to your son's play at school and this is what they put on for you? I mean, this is deep.
It's so wild to me that this is a ghost story. And if you ask the ladies that I work with, I mean, they just know it as this fearful being. They did not even know that it's connected to this larger story of the conquest of the area. It's just something they're terrified of. But somehow they took this really scary paranormal type entity and turned her into a political icon.
So weird.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So she became a symbol of Mexican identity in that her union and betrayal with the Spanish man represents so much about the birth of Mexico as a nation of forcefully mixed race people.
Okay.
As feared as La Llorona is, she's also hugely celebrated. There is an annual performance of La Llorona on Mexico City's Lake Xochimilco. And there is an advertisement from that production that states, "Our nation was born from the tears of La Llorona."
Wow. Like, is there like a marker? Is there like a point of interest as you're driving up and like people can take selfies with that sign? Because come on.
I want that selfie. Yes.
Yes.
So this version of the play runs for 2 weeks at the end of October, beginning of November, overlapping the Day of the Dead celebrations, and has been performed for over 20 years.
You know, my husband has promised me that we will go to Mexico for Dia de los Muertos because
I'm going with you.
That's like you. I know. Right?
Don't
we
you
should
dare
go.
leave home without me.
I won't leave home without you. I love it. I absolutely want to go. I want to see this play too. You know, there are traditions that are all over the country that we don't have here. And it's fascinating when it involves the deceased and these types of legends. I love it.
Yeah, I love cultures that do take that time out for it. And La Llorona legend has also popped up on TV shows and film. There are also tons of books for adults and children regarding her story, plus countless of sightings of La Llorona are still reported today. She has been seen along many rivers across the entire Southwest, as her reach is pretty far.
Wow.
And she's said to travel along the waterways.
Like a water witch.
Yeah. And Isla de Muñasc in Mexico. It's a common spot where people claim to hear the cries of La Llorona. But this area is better known to us as the Island of the Dolls.
Ah, well, I've heard of that one. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Which rests in the canals of the Xochimilco waters.
Yep.
If you are new to the paranormal world or need a quick summary of this infamous island, then here goes. In the 1950s, Don Julian Santabarrio left his wife and child and moved onto the island. I think I read something about he was like being persecuted for his extreme religious beliefs and stuff, and just the whole town was looking at him crazy. So he was like, I gotta get out of here. It wasn't just that he was like a deadbeat dad. I think he was just trying to hide from the town.
He wasn't paying his child support, and he's like,
No.
I gotta.
I don't think it was quite that, but
Okay.
I'm not really sure. According to Don Julian, one day, shortly after he moved onto the island, he witnessed a young girl drowning in the lake. Painful with grief that he could not save her, Don Julian devoted his life to honoring this lost soul in a unique and fascinating way. He collected and hung up dolls by the hundreds. Eventually, Don Julian transformed the entire island into a kind of bizarre, horrifying, doll-infested wonderland. Mm-hmm. Don Julian began collecting lost dolls from the canal and the trash near his island home. He is also said to have traded produce he grew for more dolls. He never cleaned up these dolls or attempted to fix them, but rather just put them up with their missing eyes, limbs, covered in dirt, in whatever state he found them in.
They look pretty rough, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so even the ones that he got new, the wind and the weather turned them into cracked and distorted versions of themselves. Mm-hmm. So as you can imagine, it's a lovely place. Mm-hmm. Don Julian also kept his cabin filled with dolls, which he dressed them in headdresses, sunglasses, and other accessories. This is pastime for him. He's on an island by himself.
Sure.
Despite the fact that most people found the island frightening, Don Julian saw the dolls as beautiful protectors, and he welcomed visitors whom he showed around, charging a small fee. In 2001, Don Julian was found drowned by his nephew in the same area in which he believed the little girl had died. You can see investigations of the island on all the popular ghost shows. None of them seem to focus on the idea that La Llorona may have been involved in any of these drownings, and none experienced her wailing while there.
I see the connection, and I don't know why that wasn't explored. And this poor Don Julian was like, this poor little girl, she just needed a dolly. Okay, she's still crying. More dollies. Oh, she's still crying. Doll.
More. Make her stop.
Right. He was just trying to make her happy. And then he was like, okay, maybe if I play, if you have a little kid, you got to do like tea time. So like, just play with the dolly. See, it's okay. Quit crying. I bet it was La Llorona. Wow. I never even thought that there was a connection there.
And I have seen this on like BuzzFeed Unsolved. They've been there. Of course, Ghost Adventures have been there.
Amy's Crypt?
Oh, yeah. Totally been there. And so I rewatched them because I'm like, wait, did I miss them mentioning that she was involved in it? No. To them, just all the dolls are possessed, which, I mean, I think some of those dolls are possessed.
Yeah, or the spiders that live within the doll's eyes.
Yeah, BuzzFeed Unsolved was having the worst time with those spiders.
I would not make it. I don't think I could ever go. My husband, just before we started this podcast, he was showing me the Nope swimming spider. You can imagine exactly how that goes. It's a tarantula that swims.
Yeah, oh my God.
That's a nope.
My son just told me the other day, tarantulas can swim, right? While we're like on the Salt River. I was like, what?
No, I can't handle that sort of thing.
Yeah, so like in the BuzzFeed Unsolved video, if you watch that one, they didn't really get a whole lot of evidence. However, you see the epic amount of spiders that exist there. And it was cold. Like Shane had a coat on.
Yeah.
So why? What? No.
Nope, those are some badass spiders. Burn the whole place down.
Yeah, it's done.
It's done.
Anyways, the island is totally haunted, despite nobody mentioning La Llorona's part in that.
That's crazy.
Most of the teams that investigated the island walked away with stuff like EVPs and odd thermal images. or uncomfortable feelings. That was Ghost Adventures. You know, they're always like
feeling stuff. Yeah. I'm always feeling stuff too when I go to places. I didn't realize it was like that kind of like feeling. I just sometimes don't like it, especially when you see spiders and you're in Mexico and it's cold. Or
well, they brought a doll with them that was pretty extreme too, and like most of them are sensitive, so whatever. But my favorite part of the Ghost Adventures episode was that they got the voice that they believe is Don Julia because they confirmed it with like his friend. But he's like, yeah, that's my friend's voice right there. And I thought that was pretty powerful. It would make sense for his spirit to still be there.
Sure, he loved the place. They are so good at catching people's like real voices.
They do. They catch a lot of original voices, and that is interesting. Now, Destination Truth went there as well. That episode was pretty good. I would recommend it too. Now, they got EVPs, but theirs were like very hushed. What was cool about their episode was, for one, Josh experienced a doll opening one of its eyeballs as he's like staring at it. And he was like, if that doll opens its eyeball, I'm losing it. And it did it. I'm certain I would pee my pants.
It backwards blinked.
Right. But I sent you a little photo of the thermal imaging that they caught, because that was pretty impressive, because this one dude on their team complained of noises, and it did. It was loud. You could hear it. He was like, it's on the roof of the little shack I'm in. And I thought, that's a monkey. Calm down. Or the BuzzFeed guys had saw that there were cats all over the place. So I'm like, that's a cat up on a roof. But this thermal imaging, that's not a cat or a monkey. That's big.
That's a sandworm.
They thought it was like a side profile of a person.
Okay. Or that.
Yeah, Steve Gonzalez said he thinks the tree retained heat. I didn't know they did that.
So if you were like hanging on to the tree for a while, right? You're standing over there, you're like pressed up against it, you're hot, sweaty because you're in the forest, and you're like, okay, 5 minutes is up. Okay, I have to get off of this tree and make my life work. Okay.
Right.
So then you move away from it. Then, yes, your heat profile would still be on it.
Yeah, but with the level of spiders there, I wouldn't lean on any tree.
Oh my God. No, neither would I, because I'd be dead.
Yeah.
Those spiders would be like, oh, good, fresh meat.
Ooh, eat your armpit hair. No.
Horrible.
So that was pretty interesting about that, though it has nothing to do with La Llorona. And they never even touched on it, which I was shocked by. So getting back to her story, she's also seen at Woman Hollering Creek. What a weird name. It's in Texas, near San Antonio. And she's also seen in Laurel Canyon in Arizona, which is near Kingman. The legend has it in Laurel Canyon that you could hear her cries, that they echo through the canyon between the hours of midnight and 3 a.m., which when you come here and we drive to Nevada, we'll drive right by Kingman. But
will it be
not
at those
during
hours?
those hours, no. Not at all.
So maybe if I just learn the call, and then as we're driving through, you just keep driving and I just shout out the window like the call.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, like a turkey call. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like a turkey call.
And she's going to call right back.
Right. And then we'll stop.
I also did read something about lighting some red candles. I'll have to look it back up. I didn't believe it. But it was like red candles and lots of mirrors will also attract her.
Okay, so we're driving. The dashboard's full of candles. They're all red candles.
This won't
a few
be
mirrors.
Distracting at all.
Not at all. I always have mirrors. You know, I'm always like making sure I've got the selfie profile ready. So,
okay.
Well, have the mirrors going. Roll down the window. I don't know how the candles are going to stay lit. So I'll just have to crack the window and start screaming out into the desert. I don't know. You think it'll work?
Yeah, we'll figure something out. We can make this happen.
What's the name of the canyon again?
Laurel Canyon.
Okay.
Yeah, note that down.
I'm writing it down. I've got to make sure that I've got my shit together for when I'm calling out for her.
Yes. Don't fuck it up and call a different kind of entity.
I know. There's so many different calls these days. I just have to get it right.
So also in Santa Fe, New Mexico, the tall wailing spirit has been seen repeatedly in the PERA Building, which stands for Public Employees Retirement Association.
Okay.
This building was built on land that once was an old Spanish graveyard and is near the Santa Fe River.
So by all means, it should be haunted.
Fucking full of shit.
This is the building. If there is ever one, it's this PERA building.
It's this one. At the time of construction, because of financial and time constraints, some bodies were removed to make way for the basement levels, but others, they were just left. So a large portion of the cemetery was just graded over and paved for the PERA parking lot.
That's a mistake. For the parking lot, too. It's not even the building. Oh, man.
Who wants to live eternity in a parking lot?
No, not me. I do that for at least 10 minutes before I have to go into work every day.
Oh, I actually enjoy my time in my car before I go to work. It's much more enjoyable than work.
Well, that's true. So if you're in the parking lot, play good music at least, guys.
Yes, please.
Entertain them.
So considering this, it is not surprising that the area is haunted.
Oh!
Employees flatly refuse to spend time in the PERA building's basements after dark. After many have reported unseen hands reaching out to trip them as they walk down the stairs, and they have heard loud cries and moans. One janitor in the 1970s quit after he spotted a tall, thin woman that just appeared in front of him out of nowhere in the middle of the night.
Oh.
And he was like, I quit. I hate this job anyway.
There's not enough money here. I gotta go.
Nope. Even today, many local residents will not walk past the PERA building at night.
Wow.
Another active ghost is a woman dressed all in black. Now, this is not La Llorona. They believe this is a mother of a student that passed away. So the PER building sits on the site of what once was St. Michael's School for Boys. And while it was that, two of the students in 1867 apparently died from drinking tainted water.
Ugh, yeah, yuck.
Now, some people say, oh, no, they had cholera or they had smallpox.
Yeah, sure.
The city quickly buried them before their families could get there in unmarked graves. So when moms showed up and she's like, where's my son? They're like, no, you don't need to know anything about it, because they were trying to supposedly avoid a panic. Donna Maria Sanchez was her name, and she hounded authorities afterward, and she would not leave the city, insisting that she needed to know where her son had been buried.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was seen multiple times with a rosary walking the grounds.
This poor woman.
Right. So many believe that she died from grief, and they state that they could still see her walking the grounds, clutching her rosary, all in black, which she's seen in the building, and she's seen like walking through walls because that building wasn't there originally, it was a different building. So It's a different setup to her. But she's also seen, or she's more often seen, I should say, in the parking lot where they believe the remains of people are still left.
Wow, that's even more atrocious, because basically she wasn't able to grieve properly because she didn't know where her son was buried. And then in the end of it all, they're just like, none of these people matter. Let's turn it into a parking lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, how
Horrible.
could she ever be at peace?
Nobody should ever be at peace there. I feel so bad for anyone who gets a job there, because it should be haunted as fuck. I mean, if I was a spirit, I'd be like, I hate all of you. Oh, was this the paper that you needed for your presentation tomorrow? Shred. It's gone. It is destroyed. Was that the PowerPoint that you took 18 hours? Nope. Your computer's demolished. Poof.
Do you think
can't
that
imagine.
Every time something goes wrong in that building, they're like, it's a fucking ghost? I mean, it's your fault for building this building here. It's not me. It's not that I was up on Netflix all night watching TV and didn't actually finish this.
I love that. It's like the dog ate my paper.
Yeah.
No, if I was working there, I would totally be like the most spiritual. I'd be saging every fucking day and being like, look, I'm so sorry. This is horrible. Please don't destroy my work. I hate this job too. I hate what they did to you, but I have to have some money to survive. So please, that guy over there, go fuck with him.
Yeah. It's one thing to go in there and sage and be like, hey man, be at peace with me because I'm at peace with you. I sympathize. I need this job though. But I would be like, fuck up whatever you want. I will tell them that you did it. I will seek your revenge.
Oh, yeah. I also like that part of the story. I do like that.
Yeah, because I have no problem being like, it's a fucking ghost. You shouldn't have built here.
Yep, it's wrong. It's not wrong that I work here. I can't help it. You guys are hiring.
But over all of this, I can't help but wonder, again, just like the Island of the Dolls, did no one connect these two boys dying and La Llorona? And that she killed them, actually. Because if it was cholera or smallpox, do you really think you contained it after 2 children?
No.
So it's La Llorona.
I agree. Yeah.
But of course, there are those that say La Llorona is just a urban legend and she's not real. And many believe it was meant to be a symbolic story to represent the horrors of the unjust world. But I challenge those people to get my coworkers to believe that shit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, please.
They were pretty firm and no, that shit is real. You better not mess with her.
Yeah, right. Change their minds.
Though none of them have seen her themselves.
That's good.
They do have family members that claim to have heard her cry.
What?
And they say that they always avoid areas that they believe that she's in. But if you or anyone you know hasn't been so cautious and have stumbled upon La Llorona weeping for her children, write to us at creaturesofthenightparanormal@gmail.com or leave us a comment or send us a message on any of our forms of social media, which are listed in the show description below. Also, if you liked this story and you want more, please help support the show by subscribing and leaving a review, as well as visiting our spiritual shop, The Spirit Emporium, which is on Etsy, where you can get the hookup on some amazing witchy type products and also podcast swag.
You got any La Llorona things that'll keep her at bay? Are there any, like, looks like a child, sounds like a child?
Like paper cutouts of a child.
What is it, the baby alive? Do we have any of those? You just put that outside to keep that bitch at bay, and it's like, yeah, it sounds like a child, it looks like one, and you're all set. Take her.
Yes. By the time this airs, we will have some of those.
Baby alives coming soon.
Coming soon. No, we don't have anything that's really going to keep this one at bay. You better just behave yourself. Stay away from water at night, which that's dangerous anyways, guys.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all I know to do.
I have already planned, a trip to Mexico in my mind. I just want to go. It seems like there's so many more organic, spiritual things to just completely engulf yourself in when you're there in that culture. And I just want to eat it up. I love every bit of it. I love that. How much more they seem to embrace the idea of ghosts and spirits and legends and lore, than we really do. And it's so strange. And I don't mean we as in you and I mean like just generally.
You people that we have interacted with over our life, yes.
Yeah. But we're spun from all of these different types of traditions. I mean, that's where we come from. We come from these different areas. So it seems like we should have more of that in our roots too, but we don't. It's like our people, they came here and they had those stories, but they were just like, yeah, but I got to make a buck. So, forget about that story. Just sit your ass down, eat your food. Oh, you're not going to eat your food? Well, then you're grounded. Fuck you. I've had a rough day. It's like, this is what it's come to. And I completely understand it because I live in that world. But if you live in Mexico and they're just like, sit your ass down or yeah, La Llorona is going to come and get your ass. I mean, that's terrifying. I probably would have sat my ass down and been like, okay, well, fine, I'll eat my green beans.
Taking the time for old traditions and connecting with your ancestors is something, yes, that a lot of Americanized families forget. And that's tragic. My own family, like I say I'm of Irish descent because, my maiden name's Patrick for one thing, but I haven't done my ancestry.com. I don't know where it goes. And my family, they say that I've got some great-great-grandfather that was of Irish descent that came over here on a potato boat, but they don't seem to have hardcore facts.
Yeah.
So where my family hasn't taken that focus, and I think a lot of families, they just get so busy caught up in the day-to-day that they don't look back where your history comes from. There's a lot of Hispanic cultures, Native cultures, that they keep up with that stuff. And I love that and appreciate that. And they don't let traditions go.
Yeah.
So yeah, really don't you dare go to Mexico City without me.
Why don't we do our ancestries?
We totally should, and we will when they run that special in December. For every Christmas, that's always like really cheap. So we'll just wait for that because, like I said, I'm a cheap ass.
I think we should. I've been wanting to do it forever. The only real reason that I haven't yet is because of this whole conspiracy thing that I've got going on. Your data's going to get sold to this person and that person and this and that. But I already don't answer my phone or check my emails like I should. So I can just continue to avoid all of that. But I would really like to know more about my ancestry. I'd like to know more about where I came from. I'm the same as you, Wendy. I've only got some stories that don't have any solid backing to them.
Right, yeah.
Every time I hear the story, it almost kind of seems to change a little bit. And I'm like, wait, hang on a second. That's not what I heard before. So I would like to get the story straight for once and for all. Where the fuck am I from?
Yeah, right. Well, I think it was you and me. We were in some store and it was like Celtic traditions or whatever.
Yeah, that was here in Portsmouth. Yeah.
And it had a whole map of places and Patrick wasn't anywhere on that fucking map.
I know. You were like, come here, find Patrick on here. And I looked and I'm like, well, I don't see it. Where are they?
So, I mean, I can't go around claiming that I'm Celtic when I don't know shit about it, really.
Right. Yeah.
None of it matters, but it's very interesting to know, especially when we research these stories. And yes, we are doing it for paranormal purposes, but it always leads to like finding out other things.
Yeah, always further investigations for sure.
Well, and finding more and more about history and the development of these different worlds. And so it's like, gosh, we don't even know our own stories. That's kind of crazy.
Well, I would love to research it. I know Wendy, when we finally do our DNA testing, Wendy's going to find out that she's somehow linked to the goddess of water. I just know it. Can't pronounce her name one bit. What?
All right. So that is all that I have for you. That was so long. I am so sorry. But it deserved attention. I can't believe I put it off for this long. I had no idea what a big story it was until I said it to Nancy and Angelica at work. And they were just like, what? You never heard of this?
Yo, ass down. We got to talk.
I got to tell you something. I'm like, yeah, like a banshee. And they're like, what? And so it's so funny. But it was cool to read about her.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I love how I wrote down this sounds like a banshee. And then like 3 seconds later, like, a banshee. And I'm like, yes, I know. I do know. I've heard of her. To me, it's so crazy because I'm researching another story, which I just briefly gave away, but there's links between other cultures, millions of miles apart, where it's like they're seeing things in this area and they're also seeing things in completely separate areas that they mimic the same creatures, like how you mentioned Banshee and La Llorona, how they just have these same appeal. So maybe everyone's seeing the same thing, but they just have different names for it.
Yeah, so is it an entity that is like global or is it really a separate person just with the same kind of emotions and whatnot? Yeah, the same traits. I mean, there's other Pisces like me. So, I mean, you can see that there's connection in human behavior.
Yeah.
And as ghosts, we would represent that as well. But it is fascinating to me that they're like, oh, that's just like the Greek, blah, blah, blah. The Aztecs didn't know any shit about that. So they developed this all on their own.
Yeah.
So what is it? A true story or coincidence?
If the Aztecs knew anything about it, they were so big into that fucking calendar that they would have put her in there. I'm sorry. It would have been a holiday or something. They were so big into that calendar. Come on.
Yeah, I feel like we would have known about this sooner then.
Yeah, everyone. It would have been on every calendar that ever comes out. La Llorona Day. Here it is. But anyways, I absolutely adore your story. This is a fascinating one for me. It's a legendary story. And then you tie in the Island of the Dolls. So it's incredible. Thank you so much for doing all of that.
You're welcome. It was a good story. But yeah, so again, like and subscribe. Don't miss a single podcast. They're always great. And that's all that we got for you. So bye.
Bye.